our SPMP agenda for the month of April. Zoe, are you ready to go? Live stream started. That's great. Okay, first agenda item is apologies. We are full house today, so no apologies to include there. Can I ask for any disclosures of members' interest, please? Any? No, thank you. Any late items? Nothing. A confirmation of order of the meeting. Claire's happy to move. Andrew's happy to second. All in favour? Carried. Now we'll move on to the minutes from the 7th of March. Any discussion, alterations on the minutes? No, well, that's excellent. So we'll ask for a move and a second, please, if they're true and correct. So thank you, Councillor Roger Gordon and Councillor Philip Coles. All in favour? No. Against? Carried. Thank you. All right, we'll go to our first item, which is the Heritage Fund Review. And Anne is here, and Brad. Morning, both.
Kia ora tātou. I'll take. Good morning. I'll take the report as read. The fund has an annual value of $70,000. We've had 19 rounds of the fund since its inception, and we've administered over $650,000 during that time. So the idea of the review, we were asked to review the fund a little while ago, was to try and sharpen the focus of the fund to make sure that we're getting the best use available of the money that we have. It's a relatively small fund, so we want to make sure that it's getting the best use. And we also wanted to make the process clearer for applicants and for those assessing the applications, the staff and the councillors. So the main changes have been to make the focus on recognised heritage. So we want the focus to hone in on that, and that is things that are listed in the Heritage New Zealand list or in the council's district plan. Additionally, the visibility of the project and community benefit is going to be prioritised, and applicants are also expected to provide a level of funding themselves, which was kind of intimated in the previous one, but wasn't exactly that clear. We've also taken the opportunity to tidy up some of the admin, so we've included a process for progress payments and for making extensions to the fund. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Anne. Right, any questions, anybody? Claire has a question.
Oh, well, I was just going to ask the members of the Heritage Group, that I presume they're pretty happy with the changes, like Roger and Lou and Bruce. Yeah. Was it?
I personally am. We went through it, and I think that everything's good. I haven't been on it long, so maybe Luke could comment more than I could. I think it's good. Thank you, Dan and Brad.
Councillors, any other queries? Okay, Councillor. I do have a query, but if no one else is going to, Susan?
Thank you, Anne. Look, I'm really pleased to see that this work has been completed. As a past member on that group, it was often a little vague, really, and there was lack of consistencies at times. So I'm glad, and certainly you've got some really clear indicators there of the priorities that a fund should be attracting, which is awesome. Just a quick question, I guess, could we have some clarity on page 24 in terms of the cultural and archaeological examples of eligible work? Could we just get a little bit tighter around our description of fitting sprinkler systems in marae, as it's quite an open description? And is it possible that that could extend to churches as well? So long as they're heritage listed?
Yeah, no, thank you for raising that point. The intention is for it to be used on heritage listed buildings, so we can certainly tighten up that statement to make sure that it does indicate that it's not for contemporary buildings on marae sites or contemporary any other kind of buildings, and we could add churches in if they're listed in Heritage New Zealand list or listed in the district plan. Yeah.
Fantastic, thank you.
Mike?
Through the chair, well, now since we're starting to compile a list, which I personally don't think is a great idea, but in that case, schools could be on there. If they're historic buildings, and the list goes on.
If they're heritage listed buildings,
Yeah.
the intention of the fund is to support
Yeah.
those. Because
So do we actually need to list actual individual type buildings, or is it just keeping it? Just
Through a digital plan, we can just say whatever's on the heritage list,
yeah,
keeps it nice and clean.
yeah.
Okay, so if that makes sense, that we'll just take that wording out and just make it generic around heritage listed buildings, would be considered, sprinkler systems would be considered. Is everybody happy with that? Okay, are there any other changes to the to this document? Anything else? Yeah, Lou?
Wasn't actually at the meeting, but I do think that, as I say, we already have the overriding view that anything that you do with a building or anything has to have already been identified as a cultural or heritage location within our annual plan. And I think that actually would override, particularly with Marai. And I'll just bring up one thing. I talked to Roger earlier, that like St John's Church, okay, which is a heritage building in its own right. So if they applied for a sprinkler, it would actually normally qualify. So I just wanted to think that if we do it that way, it's far easier than actually saying Marai or anything else. It has to be within our annual plan as a building and a heritage site, rather than trying to develop it individually.
Yeah, no, thank you, Lou. Appreciate that, Philip.
Just, yeah, thank you, Chair. Just a quick question to Councillor Pettit. With the schools, are we responsible for the schools, or is that the Education Board or the government?
So this fund enables any, does not require ownership within Waipā District Council. So any school that was maybe heritage listed as per any other building would be eligible.
Right.
So ownership we don't really take into account ownership. It's more around, is it heritage listed? And if so there's lots of private buildings we have provided funding for in the past. A good example would be the Masonic Hotel, I think. So yeah, that's
Right.
I guess that's the purpose of the fund, is for those who have organisations that have buildings and private ownership, they can apply to this fund for some assistance.
Okay.
So look, really, I'm really wrapped with that we continue to review our funding, our options, right across the board. Obviously, there's lots of funds council does enable to our Waipā District communities. So yeah, to continue reviewing these, I think is really important, given our environment is changing at such a fast pace as well. So making them and keeping them relevant, I think, is really important. So yeah, I think congratulate the subcommittee who've put a lot of work and effort into this, and yeah, look forward to the next stage where we might be allocating some monies to good and worthwhile projects. All right, so do I have I've got a recommendation here. If someone would like to move and second, thank you, Andrew and Lou is going to second. So all in favour? Against? Carried. Thanks, everybody. All right, our next item is we've got a recommendation to exclude the public. And then we'll move on to the public excluded minutes. So I have a move in this account. Sorry. Susan's going to move, Mike's going to second.